Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello, everyone. It's good to be here today. And I have my husband, Greg, with me.
Hi, everybody.
It's so great that we get to talk about this subject today. It's kind of near and dear to our heart because we are, as this is being released, it's about a week before Valentine's Day, which is the day of love and affection and all of that. And I have an article already out called What is Love? And so we are updating that. But we're going to talk a little bit more about relationship love today. We are coming up on an anniversary, 44 years. Boy, that's been a long time, hasn't it?
So the sad thing is how quick it went by.
It went really, really fast. So our anniversary is February 29th. So we have a real anniversary every 4 years, although we just always celebrate just all weekend. So a good reminder for all of you who are listening. Hopefully you haven't turned us off yet thinking about relationship love. So that we do have some things. It's not too late to get some books on Amazon. You can see a lot of those if you're watching the video behind me. Some of my favorites and our favorites are, and great reviews, Stop Circling. That's my most recent and wonderful book. Easy to read, easy to kind of go through, really kind of apply to your life. The Summit, wonderful allegory. This is a great gift book, wonderful gift book. And of course, Women at Halftime to go through the Hero Mountain. And as this has been released, Hero Mountain Summit, I open it up twice a year for individuals. And then I have also for groups. We can start at any time. The content is dripped. So that means that you get access to the 60 sessions. There's a lot of sessions, short sessions, but to really move you ahead in life. And it's 5 months long. So it's a wonderful program. If you want to change your life, there you go. That's it. So get unstuck. So I put that together just for you. So, well, let's kind of dig into this a little bit. Relationship love. And Greg says, okay, haven't we talked about this before? Well, yes, we have. We've talked about emotionally supporting each other. I'm going to link to some of those articles in the show notes and the actual episodes. I will link to those podcast episodes. I think you'll enjoy listening to them. Podcast episode 104 and 128. So you can look at that online as well. So, but
don't you have an old song you wrote?
Yes.
What is love?
What is love? Yes, that's in the article too. So you can listen to that.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And I'm releasing another song as well. I've got a group of love songs, so you'll get to see one of the brand new ones. Make sure you get on our newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And you will get all the recent songs there too. That's a good one. So let's talk about this a little bit. Relationship love. How have we lasted this many years? It's amazing. I look at it, it's amazing.
Only because you have a great sense of humor.
Well, and I can still look across and think, there's that guy, your hair was a little different, a lot browner some years ago, but we met in a blind date and here we are all these years later. So fun little story. So I kind of wanted to start out with one that's I feel is really important in a relationship is respect. Especially for spouses. And I think I learned about this as we went along and how important respect was for you. It's important for me too, because sometimes people just don't take me seriously because, you're a musician, you're just doing your hobby. No, this has been my business. I've worked in this area for a long time, also as a speaker and an author. I'm working in this field. There's few that get to do that. I feel very fortunate to do that. So, but this respect for each other, can you comment some? Here I've talked all of this to open this up. We need to hear from you.
So just Debbie and I, as we've talked through the years, and some of our squabbles will be just over insignificant stuff, but when we boiled it all down, it kind of came to respect. Somebody trampling on somebody else's schedule, and somebody had something planned, and somebody else scheduled something else. And that's a real tiny slight. Sometimes it was tone of voice, something that could be asked pleasant was kind of asked in a curt kind of way. And then we started noticing couples that seem happy, treat each other well, and the ones that are struggling, there was public disrespect that was being shown. And it kind of just over time went on our radar as a big deal. And now we feel like probably, and I don't have a PhD in the subject of relationships, but if you kind of test yourself and say, of every good relationship you have, isn't personal respect probably at the foundation of it? That seems to be true in all of our relationships, that in order for somebody to like you on a continuous basis, they've got to decide to respect you. And I say decide because you can't really demand it. And, and frankly, some things that some people respect and people are things that turn somebody else off. So it's a decision, but respect is core. And sure, we should all respect each other as humans. But I mean, if you think about your close friendships, you respect all those people as people. And if you don't, they're just kind of people you tolerate. And that, I think we've concluded, is especially true of spouses. But it would also be true, I guess, in our office, right?
It will be true everywhere.
I mean, the people you respect the most at the office are the people that you're probably willing to, go to get problem solved. So
I still remember one of the first things when we were having, we don't argue a whole lot, like we're not just at each other's throat, but I still remember being upset. Both of us were upset about something. And you told me that it was my tone of voice. And it was like, what?
That was it right there.
and I didn't understand. I
just a little
didn't
hint of condescension.
Just couldn't understand it at all.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, I've really learned a lot. And I think we don't evaluate that. Still, this comes up. If you don't feel like I've really forgiven you, or you don't feel like I've really we've really talked through the subject sometimes, because I don't even really sound like I'm serious, and it's like, why are you judging me? So some of that goes on, but it comes down to respect for each other and listening to each other. I think that puts us in that next category too.
Kind of what we talked about is, think about this: if somebody's unwilling to forgive you, or if they're listening with half an ear and they've got their mind somewhere else, aren't both of those disrespectful?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's kind of what we're talking about is, learning to listen, being willing to forgive, because once you're unwilling to forgive somebody, what you've decided is you no longer respect that person. Mm-hmm. You don't care about the relationship enough to mend it. And that's problematic. That's a tough place to be.
Yeah, it really is. And you can feel that. You can feel it, the other person, they can really feel it. And I think then listening or having a conversation, that shows respect first, that you care about that person. What are you feeling right now? So I think it took us a while to really get to that point, to be honest, because I wasn't used to having to do that in my family. There was...
That's because you were the big sister you just told everybody what to do.
I had it all together. And it was, you were the big brother, but it seemed like... But we were both, the oldest children. And so we kind of went in with these strong personalities. So, but I think that, that we've learned that through the years, that's really, really important. And it's important for me just to shut my mouth and listen a little bit. So what's happening here? let's calm down. Sometimes you just need a little time on that. And
Yeah,
I
and
think,
it's true
yeah,
for me too. You know,
yeah,
I'm taking time to listen and get out of myself and listen in on the conversation, observe it from somebody else's standpoint.
right. So instead of just responding right away, it's like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's kind of evaluate and all of that. So, and this is across the board. It's not just relationships. I think I've learned more about relationships as far as a love relationship here, but I think I've learned more about even dealing with other relationships with people, stepping back, listening. What's the issue? Let's make sure we have that element in it of respect. And I think all along, because there's a lot of times I have just not felt personally in my business respected, until all of a sudden someone will hear me, or they'll hear me play, or they'll do something, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you really can do that. Well, yes, or oh, you really are that good, that sort of, thing in your business. And people they don't believe you. They just think, oh no, this has been, whatever. So anyway, I think that's a big one too. You can tell that's been a hot spot for me. So yeah. Well, let's move on. We talked about listening a little bit. Did you have any more to add to that? I was going to kind of move to trust and some of those areas.
I think on listening, when you hear somebody expressing a grievance, in order to maintain respect, it's usually best to put that. Don't let it stay on your chest. Put it out on the table, and talk about it away from you. So if somebody doesn't like the way you're ordering your day, for instance, and they're kind of got an accusatory tone, they're hurling at you. Don't let it hit you. Say something to the effect of, as you move it back to the table, what I hear you saying is that this affects you in such a way, and talk about the issue. Don't talk about yourself or the other person. It's okay to recognize that the other person's being condescending and maybe disdainful. Think about it up here. Don't accuse back, though. Because unfortunately, humans' knee-jerk reaction is to accuse, and the mature person just knows how to diffuse that and move on.
I love the phrase you used, because I did not have the skill coming into our relationship. And what I hear you saying is,
oh yeah, that's a great.
What that is, that immediately diffuses so much, saying, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I said.
But if it is what you said,
yes,
it affirms you.
It affirms you.
Yeah, it respects you.
Yes. So, boy, I put a little star.
But if it isn't what you said, it gives a great moment for the other person to clarify.
Right. And to say, but I might have said that, but do you understand what I was feeling when I said it?
Yeah.
Or, something, it leads to something else. So it's a great communication tool with really anybody, but with us, I have learned more about relating to business relationships with just our conversations, and as we speak, because Greg comes from much more of even a corporate background than I do. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, pretty much, an independent contractor, all the whole things, and a lot of freedom. But I've worked extremely hard, but from different aspects of that. I don't have somebody, all the time telling me, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. So there's that sort of aspect that I have learned some of those tools, even from our relationship. So, well, let's move on into that area of trust for relationships and for working relationships. I think trust is huge. And in our country right now, I think we're facing a huge trust issue in many areas, but really in relationships that happens as well. So, and who can you trust? How can you, that's such a big deal. Like when I know that you have my back, that gives me more than almost anything, of just that trust. And I know that you care, you're not going to go behind my back with things, even as a spouse. I mean, there are relationships like that everywhere. So What are some of your thoughts on that area?
Well, trust is critical to having deep conversations because until you trust somebody, you're not going to open up to them. And so it's essential there. It's also essential in sales. Ultimately, if you think about it, if somebody buys something from you, what they've done is decided to trust that you'll provide the service or product that you've advertised. And so every purchase decision is a trust decision. Obviously, if you're going to the grocery store to buy a candy bar, limited amount of trust involved. But if you're going to a car dealership to buy a car, and it's expected to get a certain amount of gas mileage, have a year warranty or a 3-year warranty. I mean, there's trust involved. If you're a purchasing agent and you're trying to buy printing that will always be delivered on time, the specs will be maintained. There's no bleeding. What you end up eventually purchasing is trust. So, and trust is really hard to develop and really easy to break. So, and I was always amazed in sales how people did so little follow-up, because the first sale is almost impossible to make. Yeah. But after you make it and they've decided to trust you, the second sale should be the easiest if you just follow through, because follow through allows the trust level to continue and to deepen. And the more trust there is, the more seamless and efficient communication happens. Yeah. And, as soon as trust goes out the door, all of a sudden everybody's going, well, what do you mean? Let's define our terms. It's just this endless, why did you say it that way? Why didn't you say it this way? It just, the questioning comes up. Whereas in a trusting relationship, what you say is what you mean, and you mean what you say, and we just move on,
Right. So, right. Yeah. Boy, those are great points of just, and for sales too, it's such a important thing, and develop that trust and relationships. Relationships are so key in almost any area now. And it always kind of has been, but people kind of relate on, okay, well, it's the brand. But boy, when you break that brand, when you break that trust, it's huge. And with relationships,
Disney's really kind of experienced that.
Yes, they have.
People feeling like they broke the brand.
Yes,
I mean, you spent decades, building it up, and and whether they deserved it or not, everybody else can decide. But right. I know they're experiencing that.
They really have, and their basic brand is they want to, everybody, it's happiness, and it's creating that happiness. And, so that feeling, I've just gone through all of this training. I've worked for them for years with independent contracting, and now, being brought on as one of their little cast members, I kind of get to see behind the scenes a little bit of what their real mission is. And when that's broken, we see the results. I mean, whether it's in movies, whether it's, it's going to show up somewhere. People canceling memberships or whatever. And this happens with gyms. It happens everywhere that we go. It can be canceled.
Yeah. The point being is lots of times we were really hard to build a brand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what you're really building in a brand is not just name recognition, but trust in that name. Right. And super important.
Super important. Yeah. Yeah. So I am all for hanging on to that trust. I'm hanging on to that happiness and everything that we experience. And I'm doing everything I can.
Let me offer this caveat. I probably heavily borrowed some of those thoughts from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah. So if you want to footnote that, I think there's a chapter in there about that.
Good. I'll put that book also in the show notes and in the article as well. I usually put links in the article so you can do your further study. That's an excellent book, actually. So definitely. So, well, we talked about forgiveness, and we talked a little bit about laughing with each other with forgiveness and how
we were
going
to talk about forgiveness next, and when we were bantering the subject about, I said, people that are willing to forgive each other generally are willing to laugh with each other.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy the relationship over the decades, then, part of deciding whether to forgive the next offense is, do I really want to give up laughing with each other? It's just, being friends is enjoyable. It's simple at many levels, but, it requires forgiveness. And generally speaking, when I'm having trouble forgiving something, it's because I take myself too seriously and don't take the other person quite as serious. And I think when we get over ourselves a little bit, for the sake of the bigger picture, it just becomes easier to laugh at yourself and laugh with the other person. So hopefully it never works when somebody's laughing at you, but if we're all laughing together, it's okay. And it's quite okay for you to laugh at yourself.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah. Getting over yourself. It's a great one. So we hear that a lot, but it's hard to apply, because sometimes we take things, we're kind of alone in our space and I'm hurt and, all of this. But if you can just say, like, how big is this in the big picture, and it's not that big of a deal. And to be able to communicate about it as well. If there is something that's an issue, then you need to be able to at least bring it up, talk about it. So.
Yeah. And you have to be realistic about the fact that if you don't forgive, you're taking a step back permanently. It just doesn't sound like a great choice at any level.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And this is really important for a spouse relationship, definitely, with all of that. So, well, let's move on to, I talk about love languages quite a bit because I really love that sort of term, love language, with the 5 Acts of Love with Gary Chapman and that book. If you have not read that, it's a very simple book, and it was out years ago. It's a kind of one of those classics with the love languages, and a lot of people have spun off on a lot of that, but it's very applicable. It's easy to think about, and love languages and how we communicate with each other. And again, there was that area that I really didn't, as we went into our relationship together, I didn't understand that one of your primary, you can have a couple of those love languages, but one of your primary love languages is time. I should have known that, because we would spend hours talking, from my parents' fireplace. We would just sit and talk for hours. And when we were first,
and silly me, I thought you were enjoying it.
I was enjoying it. I was really enjoying the fire too. But I found that my love language was more of the acts of service. And I don't know if that developed more having kids and feeling like frantic, and catching up with things. But it means a lot to me with those little things that are just done without even me asking. And I think for any mom, raised 3 boys with, anyone, working on handling a lot of business and with work, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So,
and a second one of mine was gift giving. So what typically happens is you assume that everybody has your love language. So the way you express love primarily is the way you like to be loved. So, I would give Deb gifts and, carve out time to spend an hour with her. And, over the years, it just seemed like she had a lot of other things to do other than hang out for an hour. And the gifts were appreciated, but they weren't really scoring points. And then I discovered a second one of hers, which is words of affirmation. So rather than a gift, a really well thought out and written card scores way more points than a gift. And believe it or not, doing the laundry without her asking is way bigger of a deal than giving her a gift.
It's huge.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm real happy with that.
really happy.
Yeah, you just did that this morning. You brought in,
That's
I was
true,
going
I
to do
did.
laundry. I said, I'm going to do some laundry today, throw some stuff in. And then you just said, I just did some. It's like, really? Oh, that's great. And you had it. Yeah, it was.
So,
it was
but
great.
the major point though is that we tend to express love the way we like to be loved. And it takes getting out of your head just a little bit and figuring out what's the other person's love language? How do they like to receive love? And, it takes a little time. Knowing the 5 love languages really helps though, as you're trying to, figure this out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I have to admit, I really do need to work a little bit more on the gift giving because I'm not a shopper. I don't really like to shop. And I know you love those old gifts but I usually give things that I think we need, like what did I give you at Christmas? A rain barrel.
And what's silly is so I like giving gifts. I like receiving gifts. But to me, a gift list, like give me your Christmas list, that defeats the whole purpose, because the purpose is for you to think about what I might want and express your love. If all I'm doing is writing down my shopping list, that we could have done that in August.
Yeah, but I bought everything on his shopping list this year.
Yeah, this year I actually put together a list, but it was meant for my oldest son because we have similar taste, and Debbie co-opted it.
Well, I know it's what it is. I'm just not a shopper. Yeah, I got it all done.
But I decided to appreciate it all.
You did. You really appreciate. I got you a couple things that were unexpected.
We're laughing.
We're laughing. I did get him a couple things that were unexpected. The rain barrel. I thought that was a great gift.
That was a great gift.
Well, our first anniversary gift, I have to admit, I gave him a garden hose. I remember you said, "What's this?"
It was so useful.
We needed it. Right. So yeah, we've grown a lot through the years. Although, again, yes, we do laugh a lot thinking through the years. Now, it's great to get to this point and be able to laugh to be honest,
it's really helpful that our minds are going.
Yeah, it is. But I still remember
we forget all
those things. Yeah, I do still remember.
Mm-hmm.
So great things. Well, let's kind of tie this up. This has been just such a great little episode. I kind of wanted to put something timely out about love songs as well. And so you can click into the article, make sure, again, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. That you get on that list. You look at our websites, goalsforyourlife.com, Deborah Johnson speaker, or even DJ Works Music. I've got a lot of material in there and plenty of books too, plenty of material, plenty of content and online courses too. But so let's kind of sum this up and what people can kind of walk away with, because a lot of this really affects us. It affects us emotionally. It affects us to be able, people get stymied. They just, they're spinning still in their roundabout. They can't get out. And one of those things are just, the relationships and being hurt and not being able to forgive, not being able to get beyond some of these things. So I'm a huge believer in journaling. Get some help if needed. I really talk about this a lot in my Stop Circling book about getting beyond some of those roundabouts and being able to stuck as you're circling, to be able to give you the steps. And there's actually application all the way through it to be able to do that. Women at Halftime book, the same thing, application all the way through. So I'm really on your team. I really want you to get beyond all of this. So what other things can you leave us with today?
I think the wrapping it up, I think if you think about respect and trust and forgiveness and laughter and laughing at yourself, that's all. Love's really about personal growth. Two people deciding to grow together and becoming partners over time. And in contrast to the way Americans tend to celebrate love, is the love songs are all about the initial moment. And, love is like so much deeper than that. And it's, people I've known who've gone through 4 or 5 spouses over the course of their lifetimes are just stuck in the cycle, that initial moment. You think of the Beatles song, When I Saw Her Standing There, and that's about as, deep as we go. Or, I forget, I think it was the Crystals saying, and then he kissed me. Just like, and those are, wonderful teen moments, but, we're way beyond the teen years. But a lot of people's definition of love hasn't grown since they were 16. And I think the things we're talking about are the things that add richness to life, as opposed to the, teeny bop stuff you're going to hear around Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So true. So true. And at this point, I mean, again, I think we started this episode saying we can't believe, how many years it's been, and here we are. But wow, it's grown so much richer, so much richer. And I tell those that are just kind of starting out, I say, it's worth hanging on. It's worth hanging on. And you just got to go through it and grow through it, not just go through it, but grow through it.
Right.
Be willing to grow, be willing to communicate, and don't shut each other off, respect each other. Just, with our kids, there's only so much we can say with all of this. They're probably not listening to any of my podcasts, but it's so important. We just, pray for them. We support them anytime with their conversations, and if they got questions. But it's a journey. It's just a journey through relationships, also through work relationships, because I will guarantee there are those that you got to let them go too. You've just got to let them roll off certain things. You can't take everything seriously. We talked about that today, even with our relationship, but with work relationships too. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. We are on together once a month. So I drag Greg in, and he goes, yeah. So we talk about something a little bit different each month. And usually write an article, or sometimes I'm updating some of the articles, because I put out a lot of articles, but I will update them, and I'll have the most recent podcast and video. So anything else you want to add, or shall we just shut this down here? So, well, thank you all so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. I love this format. It's just a privilege to be here. And I hope you join us again every single week. Make sure you follow, and don't miss a single episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.